Hey everyone, I am working on this 2003 Jeep TJ. It's got the 4-liter engine in it, some big 35s, pretty good all-around 5-speed Jeep, but we want more power. So I'm actually going to install, I think it was a $1,500 turbo kit, supposedly drop in, don't need to do anything special, it'll work with the factory exhaust, yada yada yada. So let's see how true that is, and also see how much it wakes this thing up. So our first step here is going to be to remove the current air intake, air box, whatever you want to call it. And then additionally, we're going to be removing our intake and exhaust manifold. So at that point, I think this is kind of the bare minimum to get started here. Sounds like this air box is also going to be coming off, so I will probably go ahead and remove that. This rig does have a snorkel on it, but I don't know if it's actually functional, so we'll see what that entails. Now, to make this whole thing easier, I do have my topside creeper out. This thing is going to make it a little more, I don't know, user-friendly, easier on me to actually get in there, do all this work. Because frankly, I do this stuff after work, and it can get a little bit taxing to be climbing in and out. So, this Jeep's pretty tall. I'm about 5'10", so take that as you will. There's a few things that I don't love about it. A lot of kind of rounded, but sharp edges. The wheels suck, but it beats trying to stand on a stepladder on this lifted Jeep. So anyways, probably use some better screws for this. I think what I would like to do is widen this out and use a little bit thicker plywood, better material. And yeah, this thing's pretty cheap though. I'll put a link in the description. Definitely changed the game working on all these big trucks. So yep, all right, let's get into it. So to this guy's credit, the snorkel does actually look like it works. How much it keeps out, I don't know. But at any rate, airbox has got to go. So I'm going to undo that. These were just some normal hose clamps. I used a flathead screwdriver, and I'll tell you what size those are to get that off. That was an 8mm bolt, by the way. That one and that one, which are the two higher ones, had a lot of trouble getting those off of whatever nut that retains them. I feel like it just stripped out or something, but I eventually got it pulled out. So anyways, and then sneaking it this way towards the battery, seemed to get it by this bar, but I do think we're going to be undoing those ends of those anyways. So, and you might be asking yourself, why are you doing this? Well, I'm going to let Burt Reynolds address that one.
That'll do it too, wouldn't it? Well, yeah, that'll work too, I guess. That's all that's. Okay.
Okay, so for the most part, this has been a bunch of 10mm bolts holding the intake as well as the fuel rail on. To get these fuel injector connectors off, I just took a pick, pulled up on the red part, and then, pushed that little lever down. Same thing for the majority of these connectors. Now, because I'm swapping intakes, I'm just putting the bolts back where they came from. That way I don't lose anything, because it's kind of a lot of different specific parts to keep up with. So anyways, I took one of these fuel disconnect tools. Let me tell you what size it is. 8mm or 5/16. Basically what I did is just put it on here, push this forward, push the disconnect on it, and then it pops right off. So that worked out okay. Got it on my finger, but it happens. At any rate, now we're going to see about getting the rest of this off. Okay, so these exhaust manifold and intake manifold bolts are all 14s. Naturally it's random enough. So I got most of them out with the impact and a wobble socket, but some of these I'm having to use the wrench on. Now, what I've got here is basically like a force multiplier for this wrench. It slips on there and basically just wedges itself into it. So pretty handy. I'll put a link in that in the description. I got it for that 12 valve because some of the places you can literally only get to with a wrench, and you need to be able to get a torque, close to on it. So funny enough, it's the 1, 2, and 3 most easiest ones to get to, the very back there included, that need the wrench. So I don't know what's up with that. I think it's just that's where everything else fit. But at any rate, it's coming out. So like I'm starting to learn about this Jeep, there's always a catch. So You're going to need to pull this panel off. You can use a trim removal tool, and that'll allow you to get to these last two bolts. They're basically right in the middle. Yeah, it's not fun, but that does allow you to get in there, as you'll see in a minute. Okay, well, the exhaust is undone, our intake is off, and I got that new intake. We'll see if we can actually use it or not, but at any rate, now I've got to cut this exhaust out because it actually does have a bigger exhaust, and they welded it, so I'm going to try to get that undone and get this header pulled out. Now, if you've got these individual cats, I was able to get the rearmost bolt with the impact on a swivel socket. This one I was able to start with the impact, and I had to undo it with a wrench. There's enough room, but it's going to take a little bit. Now, I did remove the collar that holds the mounting bolt in and moved the bracket over the flange. So I'm going to try to shoot that with the impact, and maybe this one will come out a little easier. Alrighty, well, we got all this taken apart. I need to clean out some of these ports where some trash had fallen in. Other than that, though, time to cut the exhaust off. And it's not the factory exhaust, so I do have to cut it off, but that'll allow us to get to the oil pan and everything else. Well, while we're in here, we're also going to replace this valve cover because that gasket is not doing good. So, I'm going to get this swapped out, cleaned up, put back on. This also pretty desperately needs some new battery connections, so might as well do something cool, make it easier to use the winch and whatnot. Yeah, these old ones were pretty roached, just straight up missing an end at one point. Okay, so I went ahead and marked a spot where it's not going to interfere with anything too bad, I don't think. And the kit did not come with this, to be clear. But at any rate, I've got this here, so I'm going to get this oil pan cleaned up, and then we're going to put this pass-through on there. It'll drain out right there, and otherwise we'll hook up a 90, which I need to order now because the kit still didn't have anything for that either. But yep, it's going to stick off the side of the oil pan, and we'll be able to drain. And I got one of these center punches that pops, and I marked my little hole there, and then I've got a step bit. So I'm just going to run it up until I can get the bung through. Alright, well there's that. Kind of weird, it's two walls, but whatever. It did get some metal shavings in there and a bit that I need to clean up, so I'll probably spray this thing out, make sure it's all clean. I'm also gonna probably paint this. There's just like some rust spots that are coming up. The other side looks especially bad, and like you've got some flaking right there, so I've got this thing off. Might as well clean it up, that way it doesn't start rusting through or something. Alright, so I'm going to run you guys through the first frustration and discovery that this set wasn't quite as complete as advertised. Especially for the price point compared to just like some crappy eBay kit, which I don't know if this is or not. I'm not going to buy one to try it out, but the header doesn't have O2 bungs on it. And in the instructions they explain how crucial that is, which obviously it's an EF5 vehicle. It has to have at least upstream O2s. So what I'm having to do is take the old crappy headers, figure out roughly where the O2 bungs are, which, just looking at it, I'm probably going to put one right here and one right here. That way I can use everything. But still, like, why couldn't they have just done that? Like, I'm assuming this header fits well, and if it doesn't, I'm going to really be annoyed. But at any rate, that to me is just kind of stupid. But at any rate, I'm going to probably put one right there and probably put one right there. So we'll see how that goes, welding flux stainless. So in order to figure out the right hole to drill for this thing, there's the bung. I'll include a link to this in the description. Basically, you're going to take the washer, put it on there, draw a circle around it, and then that's where I'm going to drill into. Because holding it up to here, just slightly less, is about the perfect diameter. So I think that'll be fine. Okay, so here's the header, the MLS gasket I'm using. So the fitment actually does seem pretty good. Sorry for the chaotic movement here. There's where I'm proposing to put one of them, and then the other one right there. So I got plenty of room to get in front of these, which is really why I wanted to test fit this. That's the oil pickup, don't get too sketched out. It seems like it'll clear the block okay. So yeah, I think we're gonna send it right there. I'm gonna cut some holes out, and get this welded up. Alright, I got some of this Blue Demon stainless steel flux core. So, got that in here. I'm going to get that cleaned up real quick and try to get those 2 bungs put on. I'm going to put them in with the O2 sensor in place. That way I know that my hole actually lines up, because I was just burning up my bit. Naturally, the one time I need tap magic, I can't find it. So, anyways, gonna get this set up. Might take a video of it, might not. We'll see. Hey everyone. Alright. Making progress on the Jeep. I've got the header put on. I got the oil pan put back on with that 10AN bung. I had to order a 90-degree fitting, so add that to the list of stuff that wasn't included. But let me show you where we're at now. So here's that header. I've got the MLS gasket on there, not included. I ended up just reusing the one that was already on the Jeep. I can't really seem to find a replacement MLS gasket, so it is what it is. Oil pan obviously is on. That 10AN bung is somewhere down there. I'm gonna have to remove the snorkel pipe, I think, get the throttle body pulled out back into safety. The next step though is to install this S pipe. This bolts on to the bottom of that header, and then this V band, which is a 13 mil, attaches to that. So, okay, this is the gasket you put on there. Just wanted to call out that you can get it on this way. I am running the bolts that way just to try to get it up there, and I'm probably gonna move them around so that I can just put the nut on the back there. But at any rate, that does make it easier to hold that little donut gasket in, because otherwise it's just going to fall out. So, okay, we kind of got this all in place here. I'll show you guys under in a minute, but I wanted to go over really quick how to clock this turbo, because in its box configuration, it's just all wrong. So there's not really much you can do here, and I might need a little bit of tweaking with these 13 mil bolts to get this set perfect. But there's 4 10 mil bolts around here that adjusts the cold side. The hot side is adjusted via this flange right there. Again, 13 and 4 10s. They're kind of a pain to deal with, but the 13s are easy at least. And then this all just kind of free spins. Okay, well, I don't know if this is exactly how that's going to stay, but I'm pretty happy with that draining position. It's like, I don't know, 11:57 and not quite noon. This seems to be okay. I'll know a little more once I get the bracket installed that's meant to hold all this up, because it is pretty heavy. I did end up having to undo this brace, which I think we have to modify at one point, just to kind of get the turbo clocked. And tip is use a paint pen and try to figure out your alignment marks. That way you're not just running in the dark. Okay, jumping back under the truck, Jeep, it's not a truck. So what I would recommend here, just to try to ease your frustrations, put this pipe in first. Ignore that snorkel pipe. It basically sneaks right behind the starter, and then you're gonna run right through here. The AC condenser, let me try to get this thing to focus, right there. So it's literally just like touching all these wires and everything. So I am going to install a heat wrap on this, and I recommend that as well. I'll have that in my parts to add list. The blow off valve, I think this is what that is like right there. So that sucks. I might I see why they didn't put it right here, because it's, you know, 4-wheel drive or whatever. We'll figure that out. But I don't quite love where that's at. But anyways, how to get all this connected though. So you'll notice this is all different. So obviously leave that as is, not tight. This, just take it off. Start with your V-band on this, and then hook it up to this flex pipe like that. Then once you have this to where you can manage it, hook it up to this S pipe, they call it. Now the whole time we're doing this, I had this long pipe with the T4 flange on it zip tied to that brace that we undid and I showed you a second ago. So all that to hold this in place, because I'm working by myself. And then coming back over here, get this all, you know, flexed, twisted, whatever the way you need it, and then she'll kind of start to ride. So I'm not 100% on all this, but I'm just keeping you guys updated, because if I ever have to do this again, Lord knows I'm gonna have to come back here. Hey everyone. So I'm under the Jeep, And I am just going to be brutally honest with you. It's about 11 o'clock at night. It's a Monday. And I've been doing some thinking on this Jeep. I'm not a big Jeep guy, but I still want this to be done right. And the way that this is, I know it's not going to be. So the way that they have this set up, and there's no other way to do this because I've tried and, kind of documented through that. And apologies for being so close. I'm trying to zoom out as much as I can. But anyways, your exhaust comes from, obviously the passenger, or well, this is the driver's side of the Jeep. And that's fine. Comes down here, that's fine. Goes over here, that's also fine. Now, what they should have done is run up right there. Now, the only thing I can think of is maybe they don't want to cook the alternator, whatever. And I know they're not worried about the AC lines because they tell you you're going to have to relocate something. Well, what they fail to explain is that this primary exhaust, the Y pipe, let's call it, runs up here, and then that's where that turbo flange is. But you lose the entirety of one, access to your oil filter. Like, good luck getting to that. And then additionally, you're cooking your starter. Now, what really got me worried is where does the actual exhaust meant to go? Because if you look everywhere else, they have this, supposedly coming right down through here again. So again, your starter's right here. That's a heat sensitive component. Same thing with your oil. You don't want your oil to boil over. And then I've already got the bung right there for the oil drain. So what I'm doing is I'm mapping this out in my head. I'm going to come from right here. I'm going to put flex pipe till it runs out. And then I'm going to 90. And I'm going to shoot straight. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to get my flange set up. Just going to get a new flange. Get it set up there. And then get the turbo set up. I'm going to keep the intercooler and everything else. I think that's a good setup. I like how that is, frankly. Everything else is bad. So I'll show you guys in the next video how I'm going to do this. But I don't want to drag this along anymore. It's just not going to work. That said, don't think I'm being pessimistic about turboing a Jeep. Turboing anything. I have even given up on turbo projects before. I've tried to turbo an 87 Suburban. I was going to 6-liter LS swap. I didn't even get the engine in it. I was young, whatever. But at any rate, I've tried to turbo a Caprice. Thought I was going to kill myself, so didn't do that. Ended up selling the car and used that to dump some money into this stuff. But anyways, I'm just being realistic here. This Jeep's really cool. It's set up really nice. Excuse the hair. It's going to be really sweet. But I think that there's a pretty big gap here. Now, I've got my 3D printer going right now. Got the filament drying out. And I'm going to start printing off some stuff. Ironically, some fun stuff. But I'm most likely going to make some exhaust pieces. Somebody came up with some 90s, 45s, whatever, that you can print off to mock up exhaust that's not quite as heavy and unbearable. So probably going to do that. I'll walk you guys through that process. And beyond that, though, I'll show you how I'm going to make this next pipe. I don't know if I'm in the business of selling anything. If I can figure out how to make a jig, I might, if this works well enough. And let me show you again what I'm talking about from the top side. So again, this is where they have the exhaust pipe running. And I know this is technically like a collector pipe that goes to the turbo, but this is still hot. Even in the cruddy images, they have this wrapped in the fiberglass tape, which is fine. You should use that. But you're going to cook all of this, and your exhaust, you're telling me you're meant to stab it through there? There's just no way. You're going to tear up major components trying to do all this. So what I'm proposing is you literally go right through here. There's a huge hole. Obviously, probably make a heat shield deflector or something for the alternator, which I've got a metal brake I need to use to justify the thing. And then I'll take the exhaust and run it back through here. So it's the same principle and concept, but they just the way that they're doing this is kind of weird. I think that's what you get for $1,400. But yeah, all right. It's blocks and wrenches for you. I'm all over the place content-wise. I'm trying to get this Jeep turned around really quick for my father-in-law. I'm hoping to have this done by, I think it's Labor Day weekend, whatever the one in September is. I don't know. It's the 18th right now, so we'll see. But yeah, I am cruising on this one, trying to get this thing done. So yeah, be sure to stick around if you find this kind of stuff neat. Like I said, if there's enough interest, I might try to make a copy of that exhaust to sell to you guys. Yeah, I definitely think there's some good pieces of this kit, but I don't think this is the save all fix all. And this is what's annoying, is I watched this guy's video. It's like legit supercars or something like that, legit street cars. So he seems like a nice guy. He had a lot of problems. I should have watched the whole video before I signed off on this kit. That's my bad. I know now that YouTube is actually YouTube. But at any rate, we're going to figure this out. I might be able to pull together something sweet for you guys in the Jeep community out here. But at any rate, yeah, signing off. There will be another video. We will get this thing going great. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. So, thanks.